Okay, so welcome to UrBonus podcast. I'm the host Donatas UrBonus, and I am joined by my colleague from Italy, Orazio Cauchi. Orazio, EuroLeague team starting the preparation stage. So show me your excitement about the upcoming EuroLeague season.
Yeah, the season is on the way now. Even in Italy, we're starting to prepare for the season. Milano is about to start. Virtus already started too. They made some official introductions. In the weekend, there's going to be the official introduction of Nico Mannion for Virtus Bologna. So, yeah, season is on the way, man.
Yeah, and since the EuroLeague teams are hitting the floor for the first practices, some of them are still on the market, looking to add for some additions. And on this pod, we today with Orazio, we will run through the biggest EuroLeague team needs, or let's say the biggest remaining moves by the EuroLeague clubs. So let's start one by one. What do you want to discuss in the beginning? Which team do you think has, let's say, not the most complicated, but let's say they're really still very busy on the market?
Yeah, I believe that, to start, there is definitely Barcelona that is still considering the market because they're looking for this number 3, number 4 guy. For that position. Jasikevicius has been, let's say, pretty clear that he wants to add another player in that position. They've been looking at several candidates, but of course their situation financially is not exactly great, so they cannot spend huge money. They looked at the situation of Gabriel Deck, but of course it's really complicated because his ACB rights are still held by Real Madrid, so it would be a very, very difficult negotiation with them. As of right now, I think their number one target is Nigel Hayes. There were rumors about him potentially go to Monaco, but I believe that especially after Motiejunas signing with Monaco, I think that now Barcelona is a much stronger option for him right now. But yeah, they're definitely looking for that number 3, number 4 guy that can play multiple positions. And I think that Jasikevicius would really like the opportunity of adding Nigel Hayes. Even the player, I heard he would be very interested in joining the team. But of course, you have to find a common ground in the negotiation. And for Barcelona, of course, it's not a particular easy moment, financially speaking.
Yeah, there were some reports that Nigel Hayes actually signed with Monaco, but from what I've been told, Nigel was never close to signing with Monaco. He had an offer, but as far as I'm hearing that Hayes to Barcelona is more or less a done deal. At least a few of my sources confirmed that it's kind of clear that Nigel Hayes will join forces with Šarūnas Jasikevičius again, because they worked together in Žalgiris 2 seasons ago, and it's going to be either a 1-year deal or 1+1, something like that. So technically, I think that Nigel Hayes is Barcelona player at the moment. Although Gabriel Deck, it would be a huge steal for Barcelona. I think it was never likely of him, joining the team, but you can imagine all these players transferring from Madrid to Barca or vice versa. Gabriel Deck would be, the biggest bomb in Spain. But yeah, Nigel Hayes is much cheaper option, and it's the player which Šarūnas Jasikevičius knows very well. And in my eyes, he gonna be a great replacement for Adam Hanga.
Yeah.
Okay. We can go with the next team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to talk a bit about CSKA Moscow situation. And I feel that there should have been some updates on Kevin Pangos' situation, because if you remember, we talked that Memphis Grizzlies was always that team which was mentioned as like the most likely destination for Kevin Pangos in the NBA. I'm hearing that maybe there are some other potential destinations for Kevin as well, like, for example, Cleveland Cavaliers. But many sources mentioned that Memphis was that team which was waiting, at least Kevin was waiting for that team. But the thing is that there was a huge game changer. Memphis made some trades. They had Rajon Rondo, also Pat Beverly, who was traded again. But right now, at the current situation, they have Ja Morant, Rajon Rondo, and also Tyus Jones on their point guard position. So from what I hear and from what we obviously can see, I'm not sure if there's enough space for Kevin in Memphis, and I think that guaranteed deal option is gone right now. And at this moment, I would say that it's more likely that Pangos will go to CSKA. Meanwhile, CSKA is not in a hurry to sign a guard. For example, if Kevin is still waiting for an NBA deal, they're willing to wait, and even it might took till the NBA training camp start, because as you mentioned, they have Daniel Hackett, Alexis Shved, Ife Lundberg, Marius Grigonis on their backcourt. So I think that they kind of have a privilege, to wait for the best, available guard from the NBA market if something will happen with Kevin Pangos.
Yeah, as you said, they're not in a rush, because at the end of the day, they're pretty much covered with their backcourt, especially after the addition of Shved. Sure, they will still love to have him, because when you have the opportunity to sign a player like Pangos, it's something that you always want to consider. But as of right now, there is no rush. Also because I think that the player is still, is still considering the NBA as his number one priority. But of course, his options are much more limited right now because of the situation in Memphis. We will see if, of course, other NBA teams might decide to make like a real offer, which would need to be guaranteed. I don't know how many of the contracts he might receive by the end of the training camps in the NBA. In the European market, I think that, last week also there were some rumors about him potentially going to Partizan Belgrade. As far as I know, I checked with a couple of sources close to the club, and so far they always denied that they are going to sign him. They just signed another point guard in Jan Madar to a 3-year deal. He was a guy that was really, really wanted by both Coach Obradovic and GM Zoran Savic. So I don't believe that as of right now, Partizan is really pushing to sign him. Maybe, if he's still gonna be available by the end of the summer, he should be, he might be a target again. But for the moment, I believe that the main option in Europe remains CSKA Moscow.
Yeah, and I agree. And I just have to add that there were so many crazy rumors this summer, so many, let's say, not correct information that sometimes it's funny, how it's changing, that one day a player is signing with one team, the next day with another team. And at the end of the day, that there was nothing close to a deal. So yeah, we have to be very careful with all these rumors, and to be, let's say, to be very careful with reporting some news. What else do you have on your list?
I believe that another team that might still had something before the beginning of the regular season, I think it could be Baskonia, because in their front court they still might need some help. They just signed Nnoko, which is a good addition for them. It was kind of a long negotiation, but in the end they were able to sign him. But I still believe that if they will find the right player, the right profile, they might still have another big, because they want to have a little bit more depth in the front court. So Baskonia is another of those teams that I believe they might had something before the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and Crvena Zvezda is another team looking for a center as well. And I was hearing Greg Monroe's name for a while let's say, for quite some time. What do you think? How likely is this move? Do you hear anything, Greg Monroe going to Zvezda?
I heard about that. Heard about that possibility. But I always believe that with these guys, players that have a lot of NBA experience, in this case, they will always try to take some time, because they want to wait and see if they might get another NBA offer, another NBA deal, especially if the offer from Europe is not like out of the world. They're not like huge money, crazy money. It's a possibility, as it was a possibility also, for example, had Davis to Partizan Belgrade. But it might still take some time, because I think these guys, they really want to wait until the very last minute to see if they can get an NBA deal.
Yeah, and Zvezda also signed Nate Walters and Austin Hollins recently. They also have Nikola Ivanovic, Stefan Lazarevich, Branko Lazic, Aleksha Radanov, and Ognjen Dobric on their backcourt, but probably we're missing some, big name, a playmaker. And I didn't see any updates on Stefan Markovic or either Stefan Jovic situation. Which one of them is joining the team? Is it Markovic?
Yeah, I mean, there were, until a few weeks ago, there were a lot of people that they were sure that this was going to be a done deal sooner or later. But clearly there have been some obstacles so far, because the deal is not done yet. And I think, there were some reports that tried to rush the situation a little bit too much, because they claimed that it was done when clearly it wasn't done yet. So I believe that it's still a very good option for them. They're still considering his case. But again, even in this case, it might take some time to make it happen.
Yeah, and the other team, which was looking for a upgrade on the backcourt, was UNICS Kazan. And actually, I heard that they already have a player probably committed to Kazan team. I just don't know the name. In your eyes, what were the best remaining point guards in this situation, which would fit Kazan picture?
Yeah, as far as I know, they were also looking a little bit at the NBA market for guys that couldn't find an NBA deal so far. There might be a couple of nice names for them. They still have quite the budget to use it. They are a team in a good financial state, so I don't think there's gonna be too many issues for them to finalize the roster. As you mentioned, for me it's the same. Like, I haven't heard like specific names so far linked to them. But there is the feeling, with people around the club that they believe that an addition is going to come really soon.
Yeah, and one of the names which comes to my mind is probably Semaj Kristen. Also, Jaleen Smith was on the market, although I'm doubtful that he's joining this team soon. What else? I don't know. I remember we talked about best top 10 CBA players who might hit the EuroLeague free agency. I remember we were talking about Joe Young, which will be a very interesting option for the EuroLeague team. So who knows? Maybe somebody from CBA market will land in Kazan.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of very interesting names coming out of that market. Of course, the main issue there is always like the salary, because if these guys want to play in Europe, most of them, they need to cut down the salary a little bit, because they are not going to make the same kind of money that they were making in China. I think Motiejunas was one of these cases. I mean, his contract with Monaco is good, but it's not as good as it was in China. So there is always this financial gap that you need to cut down a little bit.
Yeah, and I also heard that UNICS considered the possibility of adding some player at the position 2 or 3 during the season, like late in November or something like that. In my eyes, okay, they signed Jakiri, they have Will Thomas, but I'm not sure. I would love to see one more solid big man on their roster. Do you hear anything about any candidates or something like that?
I think that as of right now, like they are pretty satisfied with what they have. Of course, a guy with more EuroLeague experience would help because, for example, they also have John Brown, who's going to be at his first experience in EuroLeague. He's a really nice player. I really like him. He played in Italy for a couple of seasons and he was really, really good. But yeah, I think that some more experience in the front court could help them. But I believe that it's more likely that it's going to have that kind of player during the season, maybe when the season has already started and not right now.
What do you hear about Alba Berlin? Because obviously, as far as I'm hearing, they're on the market for a guard, more likely combo guard or even a shooting guard. Jaleen Smith was the guy, again, who was associated with them, according to some reports. Probably it was on Eurohoops. But from what I've heard, they're pretty far away from having a deal done.
Yeah, I can confirm that. He's one of the names that they like for the combo guard position. But as of right now, there is no deal, and Jaleen Smith is still, really exploring the NBA market. In the United States, a couple of people told me that he might get a two-way contract somewhere. He had a pretty good summer league with the Phoenix Suns. He did well there. He already had some workouts with other NBA teams. He worked out for the Philadelphia 76ers too. I don't think he's gonna go to Philadelphia because now Philadelphia has both the two-way spots filled. So I don't think there is place for him there. But he's still giving the priority to the NBA market. And as of right now, I don't think there is nothing done with Alba Berlin. But of course, Jaleen could be a very good addition for several EuroLeague clubs. He's a very nice player, very useful on both ends of the court. He can do so many different things. And it's normal. There is still a lot of interest for him in the market.
And what's interesting that Olympiacos is also looking for a combo guard and probably a swingman, I would say. Tyson Carter was one of the names which was mentioned all over the Greek media. They were looking at Matt Thomas, as Kostas Milias from Gazeta reported. But as far as I've heard, at least like probably a few days ago, Matt Thomas was still he wasn't considering EuroLeague options and he prefers staying in the NBA, although it would be very nice to see him back in the Europe. First of all, he had some great time in Valencia. He's a deadly shooter, and he spent the last 2 seasons in Toronto and Utah, averaging 4 points per 9 minutes on 41% three-point shooting. So that would be interesting addition. What do you hear about this Greek team?
I think that Tyson Carter can be a real concrete name for them. They've been on his case for a while now. They haven't yet finalized the deal, but I believe that in the end he's going to sign there because they've been following him for several weeks, and he had a fantastic season with Lavrio. He really played well, and I believe that in the end he's going to become an Olympiacos player. Regarding Matt Thomas, I agree with you. For the moment, it's unlikely that he's going to come back to EuroLeague market. Olympiacos made an offer to him, but as of right now, he's still not very convinced by the possibility of returning to Europe. He will love to stay in the NBA again. He hopes that he can still get a deal from the Utah Jets, but it's not easy because of the financial
Utah
situation.
Jets? It's a new team in NBA, Utah Jets, right?
Yeah.
Utah Jazz. You probably mean Utah Jazz, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
and it's still difficult because of their salary cap situation. They are already over the luxury tax, so every single deal, it makes the luxury tax even more expensive. But yeah, as of right now, I don't think that he's gonna consider the EuroLeague market as his number one priority. So Olympiacos should probably look elsewhere to find that kind of player. It can be both a little bit of 2 and 3 as a position.
What do you think and what do you know about the other Greek team? Recently, it seemed like they were looking at a point guard too, and probably a big. At least I think that they should need some reinforcement in this position. Do you hear anything about potential candidates?
Panathinaikos is very much looking for a number 4 for that kind of player. Of course, they were really, really in love with Kevin Hervey, but in the end, he decided to go to Virtus Bologna. As of right now, the guys that are considering the most is Jeremy Evans, who played briefly for Olimpia Milan last season. They tried to make contact with Patrick Patterson, which played with the Los Angeles Clippers in the last 2 seasons. But as many other NBA guys, as of right now, Patterson is not considering the EuroLeague market. So there were some, let's say, exploratory talks, but as of right now, there's nothing like really concrete with him. And then there is the possibility of adding another point guard, another guy that can play a little bit of 1 and 2. But as of right now, I didn't hear particular names linked to the club, but Panathinaikos is still exploring also that kind of market for the team.
Yeah, the other green team, Žalgiris Kaunas, technically they are still lacking a point guard. But at the same time, I've heard that they reached an agreement with Emmanuel Mudiay, gave him the NBA out clause, but it's not very likely that he will get the NBA deal. And probably this is it, right? We discussed all the team needs, more or less. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty much done because a lot of the other clubs, their market is finished. For Italy, for example, Milan is done. That's their roster. They're not going to make other addition, at least not right now, maybe during the season if some opportunities will come. But most of the other clubs, they already fine with what they have, I believe.
Yeah, and in 10, probably the last week or the last 10 days, we had some very busy time in the EuroLeague market because we had so many signings, starting from Shved again officially joining CSKA, Nate Walters to Zvezda, Austin Hollins as well to Zvezda, Deshaun Thomas to Bayern, Landry Nnoko to Baskonia, Yusufa Fall from Baskonia to Asvel. Also Aita officially left Alba Berlin, and Israel Gonzalez will replace him as the head coach. Motiejunas signing with Monaco, and Petrusev joining Anadolu Efes. Which one of the signings you found out most fascinating, and what do you have to say about them?
I was, I think the one that I found the most interesting was definitely Motiejunas to Monaco, because to me, it wasn't a complete surprise because, of course, when we did our last podcast, you already mentioned the fact that Monaco was, in fact, following him a little bit. But, at the beginning, I didn't think that they might get a deal with him because, again, he was coming from a very good contract in China. So it was difficult to convince him to go back to the European market. But in the end, they were able to convince him. And I think it's a really nice signing for them, especially offensively. I think it can give them so many different options. And the main question mark is going to be how he's going to adapt again defensively to the kind of physicality and intensity that there is in the EuroLeague context, which is of course very, very different from the CBA. But offensively, I really like the addition for them. I think he can contribute in so many ways to them.
Oh yeah, he can be, your, let's say, Nikola Jokic, of the EuroLeague, because he can really pass the ball. He's really very smart player. He can start your transition offense with the quick pass. He can, do everything on the low post, and he's very skilled and talented player. And as you mentioned, the only question mark is his defense, because in 4 years in China, he has, let's say, he has some bad habits from that experience. But, I believe that he's smart enough. And, for example, when we talk Motiejunas, I see a lot of similarities with Greg Monroe. But I think that Motiejunas has a higher basketball IQ, and I believe that it will help him, to adapt better in defense comparing to Greg Monroe. And talking about Motiejunas, I also pointed out this one as a very interesting move, because it's a very important move related to China markets. Because he's probably the biggest name so far coming out of CBA to the EuroLeague. Although let's not close the door to China yet, because famous sports announcer of Lithuania, Tomas Langvinis, reported that he has a 2-week exit clause for China. Although, from what I hear, it's not likely that he will get the China deal, because first and foremost, it's not clear yet if they will have imports. And from what I'm hearing, it seems like that they will have the official decision only in September. So Motiejunas just decided not to wait. As you mentioned, he will have a huge, significant salary cut. And I'm hearing that it will be probably something like 3 times less than in China. But still, Monaco was following him for quite some time. And I've heard that they increased the offer lately. And it might be that he will be, let's say, one of the most, or even the most expensive Monaco player ever, because they weren't big spenders. But now I'm hearing that his salary might be something around 600,000 or 700,000 euro, which is not usual for French teams at all. Because, for example, usually the most expensive players of Asvel or of Monaco, they're getting something close to 300,000 euros.
Yeah, exactly. For example, last season in Asvel, the most expensive guy was making around 300K. So yeah, usually in France that they don't have.
Who was that guy? Do you know who was that?
Yabusele.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, and plus, you usually have more specific numbers in France because their budgets are public. At some point, they publish all their salaries, so it's easier to understand what a guy was making there. And that's also one of the reasons why there were so many European teams following Yabusele, because they knew that in France, he wasn't making like crazy money. So for a lot of EuroLeague clubs, it could have become a cheaper option than other guys, coming already from the NBA market or from other EuroLeague teams, because usually in France, the budgets are smaller and the players' salaries are a little bit less than other countries.
Yeah, the only difference with Monaco is that, it's not a, French team. It's like a microstate, on the French Riviera, and they have different tax rules. And if I'm correct, they have no taxes over there, so that gives them an opportunity to pay more. But again, it's not usual for them to be, these, let's say, big spenders. And I've heard that some Ukrainians are behind this team, and some, let's say, I was hearing that some additional, or let's say, outsider Ukrainian sponsors stepped up in order, to have to bring, Motiejunas to Monaco. So it will be very, very exciting. And probably the next name we should discuss is for sure Filip Petrusev joining Anadolu Efes, right?
Yes, and joining the path also classic already for the future Philadelphia 76ers player, because Dario Saric followed that path. He was the same also for Micic for a while when the Sixers were holding his rights. So there is kind of this classic path for going to Efes and then maybe making the step to the NBA, to the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, there is also this very, let's say, important connection between Efes and the Beo Basket Agency. You know, they always had a very good relationship in the last few years. Misko Ratsnatovic has brought there several of his clients. And in general, there is a pretty good vibe between them. And Petrusev has been the latest addition to this kind of path. Efes was following also other cases for their big men, especially after Jock Landale decided to sign in the NBA. But the other names that they were following, I've been told that they were considered a little bit too expensive. They ask, for example, information about Tariq Black, but they believe that the asking price was too high for this, especially for this period in the market. So they decided to go for a younger player, you know, for a player with less experience in the EuroLeague, but who has a lot of talent. Of course, Petrusev is coming from a very good season in ABA Liga. He was the MVP of the season. He was also named the rising star of the league. And I think his future is going to be pretty good. He did the summer league with the Sixers. He didn't play much there, but for Philadelphia, it was pretty clear that he wasn't coming over right away. You know, Darren Morey, the GM of the team, said immediately after the draft that the plan was to have him in Europe for at least another season before considering him to come over. And I think there's not going to be like a better scenario for him that playing for Efes, playing EuroLeague, playing for a contender, making a little bit more of experience, and then next summer seeing if there will be some available spots for him with Philadelphia, or maybe with other NBA teams if Philadelphia would decide to trade his rights.
Yeah, I've heard that FS is very happy with this addition. And as you mentioned, probably most importantly, that he was much cheaper comparing to Jock Landale, for example. From what I've heard, Jock Landale was about to get close to 1 million in FS, and his contract was expected to be for 2 years. Petrusev is joining the team for 1 year, and he's almost twice as cheap as Landale was. And yeah, FS people think that he will be a great fit and he will be a great replacement for Sertac Shanli. And what is interesting that FS didn't need to pay a buyout for Mega, but Mega still, let's say, keep his rights for the NBA buyout. So, for example, if after the season in FS, Petrusev will join Philly finally, then Mega will get the full buyout.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar situation to what Barcelona and Zalgiris agreed for Jokubaitis buyout to the NBA. So it's kind of a similar scenario. So it's again, I think it's a good addition for Efes because he's such a young player, but he has already showed what he can do. He has expanded also his range offensively. So I think that, to replace a player like Shanli, Petrusev is definitely not a bad option.
Yeah, and before our pod, you also said that you have something to say about Nnoko to Baskonia, right?
Yeah, it was kind of a particular negotiation because he definitely took some time to be completed. Baskonia followed him for a bit, but they also wanted to be like extra sure about his physical condition because he had some injuries in the past, he had some issues. So they wanted to be 100% sure that he was okay and that he was ready to go. There was kind of a speed up in the process when Jekiri decided to left the team, because Baskonia was a little bit, let's say, blindsided by this decision, because they were expecting him to stay also for next season. But then, there was this offer from UNICS, and it was really interesting for him. UNICS promised to him a much more central role in the team. So he decided to leave Baskonia and join in UNICS. So at that point, Baskonia decided to speed up a little bit the negotiation with Nnoko, and in the end they were able to sign him. But as we were talking before, I believe that if some other names, interesting names, will be available in the market, Baskonia is going to consider the addition of another big man before the beginning of the regular season.
So yeah, it seems like it's pretty much it, right? We discussed everything what we've prepared. Yeah, I also think that we were good. So not so many teams are still on the market, but we can expect some interesting moves. And probably, as we discussed, there are not so many, let's say, well-known EuroLeague market players left without a contract. So we might expect some surprising names coming out of NBA. I don't know how about you, but I'm really excited about the upcoming season, not just because of basketnews.com project, but there will be so many things to watch. The EuroLeague will be so competitive that I'm really glad to see all these players back, back to training camps, and with all these new faces. I mean, this EuroLeague season is gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. Also because there's probably gonna be the possibility to see again fans in the stands. Maybe not at a full capacity at the beginning, but at least to have some in the arena. So that, of course, will make the atmosphere even better. And as you said, also is gonna be the first full EuroLeague season for our new project at basketnews.com. So I'm definitely excited to start covering the season.
All right, CSKA, Donatas UrBonus. Thank you all for watching. You can follow us on basketnews.com, on YouTube Basket News channel, and also on Spotify UrBonus podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.